Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Cha Pita Twameva Twameva Bandhuscha Sakha Twameva Twameva Vidyadratinam Twameva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata Sarvani Bhutani Pratibhanti Stitani Cha Yatraivo Pashamam Yanti Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. Page 244, verse 44. Will you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Tamstan sarvan tvasamsaran uthapya lokayamyaham iti sanchintya rudrosau yatra bhikshu tato gatah. I shall see all those several beings in my succession of births, having aroused them. Thus contemplating, the Rudra went there where the mendicant was situated.
So, what's interesting here, again, we have another one of these stories where the mendicant then becomes Rudra, sees all his past incarnations, and then comes back, and Rudra sees the mendicant. So the whole idea here is to let go of this linear notion of time. And this idea that I have one body sequenced after another. Let me see if I can give you, the import, the deepest import, all of this. The question that we look at is, do I incarnate into a dream? Well, it sure as heck feels like it. When I'm in the dream state, I have a dream body and a dream world. But am I in the dream, or is the dream in me? And what Yoga Vasishtha is thundering is this experience of the waking state is no different. It is created by imagination. So in the dream state, you dream from your locus of viewing other people, other beings in the dream. How can I be two people? I dreamt about my brother. How can I be me and my brother at the same time? Yet it happens every night that we have a dream. Both are in me. And who am I? I am something that is nirupaham, videha, beyond body. I am none of the bodies in the dream. I am the consciousness that illumines them. I am none of the bodies of my apparent previous incarnations or this one. All that varies is the locus of perception. From which body are you peeping out of? So you had a crappy week, horrible upset at work. A friend passes away. What is the difference between that and a nightmare? Or we can go back to Mandukya Upanishad in the second chapter. I think it's the fourth Karika. Gaudapada says, the phenomenal world. Well, he starts by saying the dream world is perceived, but is then ascertained to be unreal. The waking state is no different. The proof of its unreality is that it is seen. So we start out, seeing is believing. The table is real, the chair is real, the lamp is real. God mystery. And in the end, it's exactly the opposite. You, aham, I, is the only real thing. It is this world that's unknowable and is the mystery. All subject to imagination, various forms of belief. Now, that doesn't mean avoid the world or run away from it. What it means is don't take it quite so seriously. Any thoughts on this? And all of our deep anxieties, our deep fears, boil down to I need to protect self. Am I okay? It's not going to be secure. And then if something comes along and our idea of self gets shattered, you're not a good person. Only thing to do in the end is let go of any idea of self. Why did I have a crappy week? Force of the past maturing. Prarabdha. Psychic indigestion. That's all it is. And if I'm suffering, spiritual hangover. always, without exception, because of attachment and identification. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Suktam tam bodhayitvatha chetasa chetanena cha yojayamasa sasmara bhikshurpyatmano bhikshur bhikshurapyatmano brahmam. Having revived the sleeping mendicant, he then endowed him with mind and life, or united him with his mind and consciousness. The mendicant also remembered his delusion.
So what he does is wake the mendicant up, the bhikshu, from his, I think he was in samadhi, wasn't he? Yeah. And so he wakes him up from that and he remembers his delusion. It's as if you fell asleep on the couch and you had a really full lunch. You had vivid dreams, and you kept coming in and out of them, in and out of them. Finally, you get totally awake. Now the mendicant, the bhikshu, remembers all these dream-like experiences. Now, this is allegory. You don't have to be thinking of, oh, in my last life, I was a lizard. You can think of last year, my last job, my last relationship, my last house, the economy 5 years ago, the politics 2 years ago. All of these are incarnations, as it were, meaning a change in circumstances and my beliefs about them, my opinions. But something there is that never changes. Shankara says in one of his hymns, in the wee hours of the morning, Smarami, Swamiji translates it as I meditate on the self. Smarami doesn't mean actually meditation. It means I remember. Don't forget who you are. Take the time to do a little sadhana, a little practice. Tune up the mind. Remember who you are. And this world falls into its proper perspective. Next verse.
Rudram atmanamalokya जीवटादिमयं तथा उभौ तौ जन्मुतः शीघ्रं जीवटस्य निवेशनम्. Perceiving himself as Rudra and also consisting of Jivata and others, the mendicant along with Rudra went swiftly to the abode of Jivata.
So he remembers all these different jivas, these different beings he's been, and now he goes to the abode of this jivata. So we have another one of these mind benders. Remember the king who went to the village and became, lived with the outcasts and all that sort of stuff. And then he goes to the village and it was really there. So this text deliberately endeavors to break down our linear view of time. It's not one reality followed by another reality, followed by another reality. There are many that can exist all at the same time. If you can see it, if you can know it, if it is an object of cognition, no matter what it is, it's mine. Now, Nisargadatta Maharaj, he uses this idea of the play of consciousness. That's the word the translator uses. Then he talks about awareness as the pure self. In a later book, I finally found out what the Sanskrit word he's using. It's Chaitanya. So we can think of Chaitanya as the stuff of mind. It's almost like a universal understanding of chitta, my individual pool of mind stuff. And it's from this Chaitanya that the entire world is made. Gita will use the term prakriti, but it's all consciousness. What do we mean by this experientially? So if you close your eyes and you visualize an elephant, what did you make the elephant out of? The stuff of mind. But is that a second substance? Is it different than you? Well, it kind of is and kind of isn't. You don't turn into an elephant. Yet there's no additional substance. Seems like two, but it's not two. That's why we call it Advaita. But that Chaitanya, that play of consciousness, is the entire phenomenal world, gross and subtle, past, present, and future. And in the end, it has little consistency, only the appearance of linear time, only the appearance of cause and effect. And you never know what's going to pop up. All right, next verse.
Tam prabodhya niyojyashu chetasa chetanena cha bodhayanta trayo jagmoho viprasamantakaadikan. Having awakened him and united him with mind and life or consciousness, immediately the three went to the Brahmana, the prince, and the others, reviving them or restoring them to life successively.
So all of a sudden, all these various incarnations get awakened and they're now existing at the same time, not sequentially. Let's see what happens next.
Rudram shate tatah sarve divyajnana chakashire prayayu swaspadam tepi rudrenatha niyojita. Thereafter, all of them being secondary incarnations of Rudra, shown with divine knowledge, then directed by Rudra, they also went to their respective places.
So all these apparent beings directed by Rudra, Lord Shiva himself, go to their respective places. Now, here's a very interesting thing. So you go into meditation, and maybe you're in the state where you are ego identified and you need to talk to God. You say, God, what am I supposed to do about this, that, and the other thing? And you get an answer. What we don't get is, I'm sorry, Jim, I'm busy talking to Daniel. I'm putting you on hold. How is it that one God can talk to each of us? Someone has a visitation from Babaji. Babaji never says, this is my avatar. I'm busy up in the Himalayas with Swami so-and-so. Fascinating. So this idea of one identity in one body followed by another, confined geographically, it's all just mind. Oh, Jim, I felt the presence of Jesus today. I'm glad. I'm sure it was he, because he was busy giving somebody else presents. Very interesting. All of this is just Chaitanya. Then, personally speaking, in the morning, you may feel I'm a good person. I'm kind, I'm considerate, I'm generous. And then in the afternoon, you get bushwhacked in your mind, you get triggered, and you act like a jerk. How can the good person in the morning and the jerk in the afternoon exist in the same mind? And in fact, inside is the whole range of the human experience. Each one of us needs to know the part of us that's capable of all these shortcomings. Embrace your inner Hitler. It's just there. You're less likely, by the way, to act out on it unconsciously if you can recognize it. So inside, we have the whole range of the human experience. So that's what the allegory is telling us. And they all exist at the same time. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Swakalatrai samdeham shapayitvath kalatah rudrena sahate sarve dehante rudramapnuvan. Then all of them, together with their spouses, having cast their bodies with Rudra by a flux of time, entered into Rudra or attained to Rudrahood on the destruction of their bodies.
Yes. So what is the truth about all forms? Temporary. And again, We can look at it from one standpoint. The physical body you have now will die. But whatever experience you're having today will die. Oh, I had such a good relationship. We're getting along so well. We have such great communication. Don't worry, it will pass. Oh, Jim, I'm having such a fight with my partner. Oh, this is so terrible. Oh, terrible. Don't worry, it will pass. Everything enters into Rudra, meaning it is destroyed. All name and form without exception. What about things like the speed of light? Before the Big Bang, there was no speed of light. Who knows what's going to happen after a big crunch or a big cold, whatever happens. Everything is temporary. Next one.
Sarvam asti chit.
Wait, one more thing to talk about with that. So if I have a cup here, one form, and I have a glass here, another form, there is space in the cup, space in the glass. The glass says to the cup, oh, you are such a beautiful cup, I love you. The cup says, oh, you are the best glass in the world, I love you. If the glass is broken and the cup is broken, what happens to space? That's the truth about you and all the people in your life, no matter what the equipment is blabbing away about. All right, I'm sorry I interrupt you. Go ahead, Ganesh.
Sarvam asti chitah koshe yat yathalokayat yasau sarvam hyabhimatam karyam ekanishthasya siddhyati. Whatever one perceives in whatever manner, everything exists within the treasury or receptacle of pure consciousness. All the desired works or needs of one devoted to or intent on one principle are indeed accomplished.
Yes. So all form, all bodies, all thoughts, all memories, all understandings exist in consciousness. For the person who understands that is their own true nature, that is the greatest thing to be accomplished. Understand this, it's very important. In the beginning, we say, be a mumukshu, be a seeker after liberation. Krishna says, by all means, be a yogi in Gita. But the ego never arrives there. There's never a person there who says, I have it now. I understand. The point is that mind understands its own fundamental, unrealized reality. And understands I am Brahman. I'm not any idea of self. Next one.
Tasmat ekarthanishtatvat bhikshu jeevena rudratam prapya rudratmana labdha sankalparthasya tatyata. Therefore, on account of fixedness on one object, the state of Rudra having been obtained by one, with a mendicant's life, the reality of the object of imagination was apprehended in that Rudra form.
So, the idea here is, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's what the Master Jesus said. If you think you're a terrible person, that's going to be what you look like and show up to yourself. Or as Emma Curtis Hopkins, a great American mystic, said, keep the high watch. Behold the divinity ever beholding you. If you continue to keep turning the mind back on the self, the phony self, the chit-chaya, the shadow self, will fall. Next verse.
Bhikshu sankalpa jivate pratyekam satyatam gataha Rudra vijnana vashatah vivishu tatparam padam. Those beings who existed in the imagination or thought of the mendicant went to the state of reality one by one. On account of the knowledge of Rudra, they entered that supreme abode or attained to that transcendental position.
So, all the various ideas of self that we have, I'm good, I'm a screw up, I'm successful, I'm a failure, all of these ideas of self go to the state of Rudra. How? In a mind made quiet through renunciation. Introvert the attentive faculty. Notice who you are. Do you see there's no person there? Good person's gone. Bad person's gone. Successful person's gone. Screw up is gone. They all attain to the state of So ego, its strategy is always trying to fix the state of ego. I'm a sinful person trying to get virtuous. I'm a sick person trying to get well. I'm a bound person trying to become a free person. Get out. Drop them all. All of them, without exception, are sankalpa. They're simply imagination. Next verse.
Sahasradha bhavet eka sankalpadhi yatha harihi amshavatara leelabhihi kurute jagatim sthitam. It is indeed by willing or imagination that one could become thousandfold, just as Hari or God Vishnu accomplishes the preservation of the world by the sportive acts of his partial incarnations.
So Yoga Vasishtha deals with three questions, and we need to thoroughly understand all three of them. The first question, Koham, who am I? What's the methodology for answering that question? Discrimination between the subject and all the objects. I am not the body. I'm not the prana. I'm not the mind. I'm not the intellect. I'm not the ego sense lodged in the intellect. Not even the darkness of pure ignorance. What am I? Sakshi. Witnessing consciousness. Question 2. What is this world? What we have been calling the not self exists not as a second substance. Just like the waves in the ocean are not separate from the ocean. Just like the images in the mirror are not separate from the mirror. Just like the mirage waters are a superimposition, an optical illusion. So all this world of name and form is the play of consciousness. It's all Chaitanya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is illusion. Vaitatya, false. Adhyasa, a superimposition. Question 3. How has it come about? By means of sankalpa. Here this translation is calling it wish or imagination or will. Sankalpa is the word we use to describe the process whereby thoughts become things. Meaning, when I pay attention to an idea, when I pay attention to a vritti, when my mind, which may have been wide and expansive, contracts, it appears grossified. So the names and forms appear more and more real. The more I contemplate them, the more I bring the attentive faculty onto the name and the form, the more real it seems to me. This is how the world has come about macrocosmically. The galaxies, the stars, all of it are the sankalpa of the infinite. But we as human beings, to an enormous degree, participate in, recreate that same process, which then becomes my experience of the phenomenal. If you want to get rid of your worries, quit worrying, as Tejomayananda used to say. Experiences do not create thought states. Unexamined thought states create my experience of the world. Well, should I change the world? Do I act my way into better thinking, or do I think my way into better acting? What's the answer? Yes. Try doing both. Because the thought and the thing, the idea and the action are not different. They're just a subtle and gross form of the same. Do behavior modification. You can work on changing your attitudes. Both are efficacious because they're not really different in the end. So in the beginning, the yogi pays attention to his relationship with his thoughts. They're not my thoughts. They all just go by. Positive, negative, virtuous, vicious, trivial, important. But the yogi then also begins to pay attention to the content of their minds. If you have habituated negative thinking, guess what's going to show up in your life? And many of these sankalpas are unconscious. And this is the great value of meditation. Meditation, we can say, is a process whereby the unconscious is made conscious. Any thoughts on this? Who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? We need to thoroughly understand those three questions. Those are the three questions this text spends time over and over again articulating. Next verse.
Iti Sri Vasishtha Sangrahe Ch.24 Prabhavo Nama Trayogvimsha Sargaha. Thus ends the chapter titled The Glory of the Power of Pure Consciousness in the abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha.
Okay, so we end this section. All right, next, we start a new chapter.
Yeah. Chaturvimsha Sargaha, chapter 24. Bhagirathopakhyanam, the story of Bhagiratha. Saushupta Maunam, the silence of Sushupti or profound repose. Vasishtha Uvacha, Vasishtha said, Saushupto Maunavan Bhutva, Tyajachitta Vilasitam. Be one possessing the silence of Sushupti and renounce what is manifested by the mind. Note, Sushupti means the state of deep sleep. Saushupta, used in the text, means of or belonging to the state of deep sleep. In the present context, it refers to profound repose. Saushupta Mauna will be translated as the silence of profound repose in the following verses.
So, what do we mean here? Supreme peace. When all our struggles cease. We get a bit of this in Gita when Krishna says, for the man, the person of steady wisdom, what is day to the yogi is night to the world out there. What is day to the world out there is night. So to use this metaphor of sleep, or rest might be a better word. A profound repose, that's the word he uses here. The yogi has given up his concern for the world. Many of our scriptures will use the term nirvana, which means blown out. So that constant flame, struggling, of acquiring, of achieving, of getting, and of preserving. Beautiful, beautiful term. All right, next verse.
Sri Rama Uvacha, Sri Rama said, Saushuptamaunamithyetat Brahman Bruhi Kim Uchyate. Revered sage, tell me what is this that is called the silence of profound repose?
And again, maunam, silence. Its exoteric meaning means keeping silent, not talking. But the deeper meaning is a silent mind. Another way of talking about it is shunya chitta. You'll hear this term. An empty mind. It's an experience. We'd be with Swamiji. We had the sensitivity to tune to him. He was so empty, so silent. Silence of profound. Going on, next phrase, or next verse.
Vasishtha Uvacha, Vasishtha said, Vang Maunam Vachasam Rodho Balat Indriya Nigraha Akshamaunam Parityagam Cheshtanam Kashta Sanyakam Praspurat Chitta Kalanam Etat Maunatrayam Bhavet. The silence of speech is a restraint or stoppage of utterance of words. The silence of the organs of sense is a suppression of the sense organs forcibly. The renunciation of all actions or efforts with the seizing or grasping by the mind spreading far and wide is designated as kashtha, or wood-like silence. These would be the three kinds of silence.
Well, these are three more worldly kinds of silence. So there's the silence of speech, the silence of the agitation of sense perception, when you have the capacity to withdraw from it. And then silence from any of the longing or the stressing of the longing. And he uses it as a wood-like silence, W-O-O-D.
Yeah, wood, like firewood.
Yes. So the point here is it's kind of an inert kind of silence, meaning it is still dependent on a silencer. Let's see what he says that's beyond this kind of mauna. Going on.
Avibhagam anabhyasam anadyantam yata sthitam dhyayato dhyayataschaiva saushuptam maunamuchyate. That which is obtained without division, without practice, without beginning and end, while meditating or not meditating, is spoken of as the silence of profound repose.
Yes. So when we've achieved this emptiness, when all our strivings cease, whether one is meditating or not meditating, whether one is acting in the world or not acting in the world, it is the fruit of the ending of all the vasanas. It is the fruit of knowledge of the self. Saushupto mauna. Silence of profound. And it is not like wood. Prakash. Next one.
Yatha bhutam idam buddhva jagat nanatva vibhramam yatha sthitam asandeham saushuptam maunamuchyate. Having known this world, which is an error of manifoldness or multiplicity, truly and as it stands, the state free from doubt which one enters is called the silence of profound repose.
So we were talking about who am I? What is this world? How has it come about? So this second understanding, having deeply understood the nothingness. The phenomenal world is shunyata. It's empty. It's not bad. It's a virtual reality. Pretty to look at, but not real. Then we just watch the world go by. I go nowhere. The world passes in front of me. Next verse.
Sushuptamaunam yogi shaihi vividaihi prapyate khalu The silence of profound repose is indeed obtained by the masters of yoga of two kinds.
Going on.
Samyak jnanavabodhena nityam ekasamadhina sankhayaiva budhayete sankhayogina smritaha. Samyak jnanavabodhena nityam ekasamadhina sankhayaiva budhayete sankhayogina smritaha. By becoming awake to the right knowledge and by profound meditation on the one truth of reality constantly, those who have known the truth only by reason or reflection are regarded as Sankhya yogins.
So those who study the scripture, practice viveka and vairagya, intense vairagya, who inquire into the nature of the self. Here, Yoga Vasishtha is borrowing the language of the second chapter of Gita. We don't mean Sankhya philosophy here. Sankhya yoga here means the yoga of knowledge. Here it's the same as Jnana yoga. So those who practice the yoga of knowledge, the Jnana Yajna, the 18th chapter of Gita talks about the sacrifice to knowledge. They find this profound repose, the silence of the profound repose. Next verse.
Pranadya nilasam shanto yuktya ye padamagataha anamayam anadyantam te smrita yoga yoginah. Those who have arrived at the abode which is stainless and without beginning and end, on completely stilling prana and other vital airs through proper means, are considered as yoga yogins, or those who have attained to absorption in absolute consciousness through the path of yoga.
Yes. So, Raja Yoga is a valid path. Now, Shrunahu, listen carefully. If you enter into the Raja Yoga tradition and you do your asana, your pranayama, etc., all the 8 limbs, but you do not follow the teaching of Patanjali when he talks about abhyasa vairagya cha. Yes, we practice abhyasa, but vairagya, also renunciation. Why? The Hatha yogis, the Raja yogis who do not practice vairagya, who do not annihilate their vasanas, end up with what we call a jada samadhi, a dead or inert samadhi. You huff and puff and huff and puff, may get high, may, have a moment where everything is silent, but I, the individual, am still there. And you come out of that state and the world is still problematic. So both Sankhya Yoga and Yoga meet in intense renunciation. It is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that is considered liberation by the wise. That's what Shankara says. Any thoughts about this? Now, Daniel, in your Hatha yoga training, didn't you become a yoga teacher?
Yes.
Yeah. Did they talk about the necessity of vasana exhaustion, of renunciation?
Frankly, no.
And my suspicion is you may be quite flexible,
Yeah.
but you still may have problems with the world. All of them meet in Abhyasa Vairagya Cha. And that term, Abhyasa Vairagya Cha, is not Jim's term. That's Patanjali. That's in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Any thoughts on this before we go on? Next verse.
Yat sankhyaih prapyate sthanam param yogai tadeva hi ekatatpadhanabhyasah prananam vilayah tatha mano vinigrah scheti moksha shabdartha sangrah ekasminapi samsiddhe te siddhyanti parasparam. The same supreme state that is reached by those following the path of knowledge is arrived at by those following the path of yoga. The intense or uninterrupted practice of the one true principle, the dissolution of the vital layers or pranas, and also the restraint of the mind constitute the epitome of the meaning of the word moksha or liberation. Even when one is accomplished, all of them are mutually fulfilled.
So they all end in the same experience. All of the paths, all four of them, not just Raja Yoga and Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, but the path of Karma Yoga and the path of Bhakti Yoga. They all end in the same place. So which path should I follow? The Guru within you will guide you. Now, I can only share with you out of my own direct experience. I did not choose Vedanta as a path. What I chose was a relationship with that man, the Swami Chimayana. I'm not sure I chose that or he chose me. But it started with a relationship. If he'd been a Sufi, I'd be a Sufi. If he'd been a Buddhist, I'd be a Buddhist. If he were a Kundalini yogi, I would have done that. But I wanted what he had, and I surrendered to him. His path is Jnana Yoga. Now, obviously, I'm prejudiced because this is the path I know. I think it's the most direct and the quickest. But it takes the most intense violence. Raja Yoga path is just as valid, but it takes more time. Oh, I want to be a tantrika. Have your cake and eat it too. You can enjoy the world and still have liberation. Absolutely true. But I tell you, Tantra is the most painful path. What does Tantra in the end give you? Intense vairagya. Why? Because the world has kicked you in the teeth over and over again. Then you finally give it up. jnana yogis, they look over there. I'm not going there. I don't need to. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Avina bhavini nityam jantunam pranachetasi kusumamodavat mishre tilataila ive sthite. Prana, or vital air, and the mind of beings are ever inseparably connected. They are associated like flower and its fragrance, and they exist like sesamum seed and its oil.
Yes. So, pranayama and the cessation of thought are linked. The Raja yogis endeavor to quieten the mind by controlling the breath, which controls the prana. But the samadhi of the jnana yogis will also affect the prana. We just don't pay a lot of attention to it. Many of us practice what I would call an integral yoga. We don't stick to just the path of jnana. You may be led to do some Raja Yoga. You may be led to do some form of bhakti. You may be drawn to selfless service. Trust your intuition. There are some teachers who will say, if you study with me, you can't read any other books and you can't study with any other teacher. I do not follow that. Everyone's welcome. I do my best to be a poor reflection of Swamiji. Give you this tradition as best as I can. But you go where you're fed. You're always welcome. All right, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishtha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.